Hey, this is John Evans from Electric Copy. In this video, we're going to have a look at how we could improve the pricing page of a B2B SaaS product. Now, pricing pages are a bit of an art form. They look simple, but there's actually a lot of small details that go into making a pricing page effective. And there's a lot of, both obvious and not so obvious details that affect how persuasive these pages are. So we're going to go through this page from top to bottom, and I'm going to point out some of the things that I think we could potentially change to make this page a bit better. We'll start by just saying what this product actually is. This is a company called Soaks. They sell a proxy IP solution, so you can connect to their solution in your web browser, and it will anonymize your IP address online, and it'll give you access to a kind of greater range of services and websites when you're on the internet. And some companies use this kind of service for various business functions like kind of data scraping and things like that. And I think this is a really good example of a page that's, a company that's done a lot of things right on the page, but still has some good room for improvement. So if we start at the top of the page, the first thing I see is kind of a UX comment. We have this headline kind of going behind the menu bar here. I don't think it's a huge problem, but it's a little bit weird and it could potentially distract people a little bit. And on pricing pages, we really want to eliminate anything that can distract or confuse people. So I would change this so that it doesn't scroll up behind the menu bar in that way. We then move on to the headline. Now, there's nothing wrong with this headline, and often on a page like this, it's best just to keep it simple, which is what they've done here. This is fine. For some companies, if you are kind of making an effort on your site to really stand out from the competition and you're in a very crowded marketplace, it can make sense to put some kind of brand messaging into this headline and make it work a bit harder for you. We can have a look at a quick example of that. This is Help Scout. And they're a kind of collaboration tool, and they've used the headline here just to kind of really reiterate what the value is to that their product delivers. And Asana have done a similar thing here. They have the eyebrow headline here, and then they have this kind of headline that's giving a bit of kind of brand messaging as well. Okay, so this company, if they wanted to do that, ramp up the brand messaging, they could add something here. Otherwise, that's fine. Moving down to these buttons here, this gives people a way to kind of find the product that's most relevant to them and see the pricing for them. That's great. It's a way to simplify the journey for readers. In some situations, it makes sense to really think deeply about the positioning of these buttons, and it might be the case that sometimes you want to move this one to the left so it's the first thing that they see. If this company is competing on price, this 20% discount here could be a deal breaker for some customers. So it might make sense to show that first, and it might even make sense to have the annual prices highlighted as the default setting. Now, as we move down the page, there's a couple of principles that we really want to keep in mind with pricing pages. Is that people are pretty close to the sale. They're already interested. So they're near to the end of their buying journey, and we really want to make it as easy as possible for them to make a decision and to find the information that they need with minimal friction. So even though we do want to be persuasive on a pricing page, it's not really the right place to kind of sell to readers. So I think actually really what we want to do is move these points here and just let people get to the pricing information quickly, because otherwise we're kind of putting friction in their way that could slow them down from getting to that buying decision. So These actually are nice selling points to get in quickly, but I would think about either putting them inside the blocks here or in some kind of little box underneath. So let's move on to these pricing tiers here. So one thing that strikes me is that this company have done the $99 pricing strategy here. They haven't continued it in the other prices. Maybe there's a good reason for that, but if not, I would suggest trying to carry on that pricing strategy. We know that's often effective in SaaS pricing, and even though they lose $1 on the monthly revenue, if they get more sales overall, it's still worth losing that $1. And it's also just about consistency as well. Generally, if things are inconsistent, it can take people a little bit longer to read them and make sense of them. So it would be good to have that consistency here. Another little subtle trick that you can do on pricing pages is to try and kind of subconsciously minimize the focus on money. I know that sounds strange for a pricing page, but what you want to do is maybe get people thinking a little bit less about the money and more just about what features do they need. And one of the ways that some companies do this is by actually making the currency sign smaller. So if we look at Xero, they've gone for a really tiny dollar sign here on their pricing page. And I think Pipedrive, if we look at Pipedrive, yeah, they've done exactly the same thing here with this tiny euro sign. So, this is another little trick that these guys could potentially do on this page here. Okay, so moving down, we have the titles of the plans, and I've got to say they leave me a little bit confused. I mean, starter makes sense. Then we get the sense, okay, pro is a bit better, plus is also a bit better, and then we go down to regular, which is actually kind of less impressive than pro and plus. So, I mean, perhaps they're intentionally trying to make this package less appealing because they want this to be the most popular package, but it just seems a bit weird. It's also a bit weird that they've got this blue highlighting on two of the words, but not on the other ones. So if I was this company, I'd probably get rid of the blue highlighting. With package names, what you can do is try and choose a name that actually, speaks to the customer and helps the customer see themselves in that package. Because again, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to make a decision. So you can choose product names that are, that say something about the audience they're intended for. I don't know if it makes sense to do that with this product. I don't know enough about the technology, but we can have a look at how some other companies have done that. If we look at Xero, they've very clearly used the names of the tiers to show what kind of businesses this is for, what stage of growth. And Pipedrive have done something similar. It's perhaps a little bit less clear, but it does give us, it does tell us this is essential and this is enterprise and so on. Another thing that you can see that a lot of companies do is just this little follow-up line, just to tell the reader a bit more about what's important about that particular tier. And again, this is just about helping people make a decision and just see themselves in that tier, in that feature package, if whatever you want to call it. So I think if there's a way to do that, they could possibly add a line here and that will just kind of make it that little bit easier for people to make a decision. As we move down here, we have the try for $199 button. That's fine. A lot of companies go for the free trial, but this company obviously decided it didn't make sense for them. My only concern is that, the mind does work very much when evaluating things. We tend to compare them. We compare them to other products. We compare them to things we've bought before. And even though $199 is low for a trial, when we see $199 next to $300, it makes the $300 seem like a bigger number by comparison. So I don't know if there's an easy solution to this, but if I was this company, I would perhaps test out what difference it makes going for the free trial, or even just try and change the design a little bit so there's a bit more of a gap between this price and this one. And maybe if we did have another line in here talking about the who this is for, that would do the job well. Okay, as we move down through these feature descriptions, there's a couple of issues here. The 27 gigabytes, I guess, represents the total amount of gigabytes they get, but it's not that clear. Personally, I had to read that a couple of times to figure out what was going on. So I think this company needs to just add a little something here, even if it's just the word total, just so, you know, the reader doesn't have to think to figure out what's happening. Anytime people have to think, that's going to slow them down, and that's not good for conversions. The other problem here is we have this, because of the positioning of the writing, we have this white right in the middle of the box, and that's really what grabs our attention. But really what's important here is the number. So I would personally try to change this text and just align it all in the center, because otherwise we miss this important information on first glance, and we also have to kind of scan left to right to take in the information here. Again, that's adding unnecessary friction, which we don't want. If I was this company, depending on the audience, I would also perhaps add little tooltips here, because, you know, I don't know what the audience is like, but maybe some of the people are new to this technology. Maybe their boss has told them to go and find a solution like this, and they might not know what ports are or whitelisted IPs. However, you can add little explainers to your pricing page like we have here, and just to give people that little extra clarification if they're new to this product. So that might be something else to consider for you know, quite a technical product like this one. And that's it really. At the end, we have these little bullet points. This does give us a good job of just saying, hey, every product has this. I think this company could potentially think about adding the 24/7 live support to this. It's nice to know, you know, it's a good feature. It's good to know that I could have a problem in the middle of the night and still speak to somebody. So that's something to potentially add here, maybe even to cut this three-day trial and put that instead. Okay, as we move down, we now have another pricing plan, I suppose, for enterprises. And I guess that they've done this because it's kind of a different pricing model, and probably because it would be too much to try and fit it in here. So I understand why they've put this here. At the same time, if I'm an enterprise customer looking at these solutions and I see this list and I don't see the enterprise solution, then maybe I think, oh, these guys actually haven't got an option for me. Maybe this isn't for me. So if I was this company, I think I would try and fit the enterprise in as, you know, information in as a button here that people could just see immediately and click to bring up the enterprise information. I'm guessing what's happening here is that they essentially offer, you know, custom pricing, and maybe that's not so easy to show in one of these buttons as well, and that's why they've done this tool. However, I don't love this because I think it could be a bit confusing. I think you have this line here that says contact us to find the best solution, which I think implies that they do a custom pricing for you, but then this makes it look like there's you know, set prices per 1,000 and 2,000 and so on. So I think if I was this company, I would just use this line to really clarify, just say clearly that they can do custom pricing depending on your needs, and just make it clear in some way that it's not just these 4 tiers or 3 tiers here. Lastly, we have this contact sales button. Now, call to action button wording is very important and can have a big impact on how many clicks the button gets. I can't say for sure, but my hunch is that contact sales might not be the right button copy to have here. Sale, I mean, we all know if we speak to someone at a software company that they are a sales assistant who's going to try and help us find the right product. But, you know, getting in contact with sales might feel like a step too far for some people. Maybe they don't quite feel like they're ready to make a purchase. They don't quite feel like they're ready for the sale. So it might feel like too big a commitment of them to contact sales. So if I was working on this website, I think I would change this to just get a quote, or even just contact us. Lastly, I think this is interesting. I mean, these credit card logos, they are trust signals, and they can help to raise the credibility of a website. But we're not actually asking for money on this page, so they're slightly incongruent with the stage that the buyer is at right now. And in that sense, they're potentially just kind of noise that, again, might kind of distract people a little bit and just take them away from the journey towards making a sale, making a purchase, or getting in touch. So I would actually think about removing these. However, trust signals are good. If I'm viewing this page for the first time and I'm thinking about spending $6,000 a month, I do want to know that this company is trustworthy and that other people like me are using this solution. So actually here would be a good place for a couple of testimonials, or maybe some other trust signals like, G2 rating or Trustpilot ratings. Lastly, we come on to the frequently asked questions. Frequently asked questions are helpful on a pricing page. However, on this page, we have a hell of a lot of them. So I would think about trying to kind of make this a bit easier to browse in a couple of ways. Firstly, maybe we could, maybe make this space a bit shorter, and perhaps make the text a little bit smaller as well. If we look up here, this text is actually quite a lot smaller. And if we just reduce the font size a bit, it would probably be easier for people to read the page, and find the question that's relevant to them. If I was this company, I mean, maybe they've already done this, but I would want to set up heat maps on this page using a tool like Hotjar. And then I would come back later and see which of these questions people are actually clicking. The ones that are getting clicked a lot, I would move to the top of the list. And then if a question isn't being clicked at all, just get rid of it. It might be that there's an SEO benefit to having all this copy in a page, but I think that's not usually a huge priority on pricing pages. I could be wrong. But that would be a good way to cut the list down. And then lastly, I would try to just remove any questions that aren't relevant. For example, here we have this question about why is my plan suspended? And that's not really a pricing question. That's a question that somebody's going to have after they're already a customer. So it's not really relevant here. And I would remove anything like that, just so we can get this list down a bit and just make it easier for people to scan through. All right, and that's pretty much it. That's what I would change on this page. There's probably more that you could change on a pricing page. They're constantly evolving and getting more sophisticated. But hopefully this gives you some ideas for how you could improve your pricing page. All right, that's all from me. Thanks very much. See you next time.